I watched from my window as people seemed to be hanging off the building, gasping for air. I soon realized they weren't gasping for air, but rather jumping to their deaths rather than be burned alive. I can never forget these horrific events, said Penny, a woman staying in a hotel across the street from the Twin Towers on 9/11. The attacks on 9/11 were some of the most complex terroristic events in U.S. history, and have forever changed the way that Americans think and act. A reason to listen to this presentation is that the attacks on 9/11 were major historical turning points, and everyone should be knowledgeable about the past. I'm credible to speak on this topic because I have been interested in the attacks on 9/11 for a long time and have done numerous hours of research. First, I'm going to tell you about the attacks and how they were carried out. Second, I'll tell you about the casualties and effects of the attack. And finally, how the attacks changed Americans' way of life. Here's how the attacks were carried out. The attacks on 9/11 were organized by Saudi Arabian terrorist group Al-Qaeda. They were funded by one of the leaders, Osama bin Laden. The estimated cost of these attacks was roughly $500,000. There were originally supposed to be 12 planes total in the attack, both on the east and west coasts. Some of the other target sites were supposed to be nuclear test sites, but these were done away with so things would not get out of hand. There were 19 militants involved in the hijackings. The terrorists that piloted these planes went to flight schools in the United States and were wired money by Saudi Arabian leaders to pay for their flight school. When they boarded the planes, they snuck on box cutters and used those to help take over the plane. American Airlines Flight 11 was the one that crashed into the North Tower around 9 a.m. Roughly 20 minutes later, United Airlines Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower. American Airlines Flight 77 hit the Pentagon, and United Airlines Flight 93 crashed in a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Now let's take a look at some of the effects and casualties from the attack. 2,996 total people died on 9/11. Over 6,000 were injured. About 400 first responders were killed just in the Twin Towers. United Airlines Flight 93 crashed in that field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, because the passengers aboard took back the plane and all 44 people on board were killed. Prior to this, though, Vice President Dick Cheney had ordered that plane to be shot down regardless. 125 people were killed in the Pentagon, plus the extra 64 from the plane. Now that we've taken a look at casualties and losses, let's see how the attacks changed the way the United States citizens think. The TSA began on November 19th, 2001 because of these attacks. The estimated cost economically in the first month after the attacks was roughly $123 billion. The damage to the city cost about $60 billion, and the cleanup cost around the Twin Towers was roughly $750 million. 9/11 made it much harder for immigrants to get visas and get into the U.S. Since 9/11, there have been no hijackings reported in the United States, thanks to the TSA. In conclusion, the attacks on 9/11 were some of the most complex terroristic events in history and have forever changed the way that Americans think and act. I've talked to you about how the attacks were carried out, the casualties from the attack, and how these attacks changed Americans' way of life. The attacks not only changed the U.S. forever, but also showed the world a cruel reality that we are in danger and helped us to wake up. Thank you.